Everybody's always asking me about short-term rentals and Airbnbs. Is it a good time? When should I do that? What market do you need to be in? So Mark has the answers for us.
Welcome to the Jennifer J. Hammond Podcast. Jennifer is a licensed realtor, educator, speaker, and best-selling author. Jennifer's goal is to help you find your yay in every day.
Hello, it's Jennifer J. And I'm so excited. Wait till you find out what Mark does. Everybody's always asking me about short-term rentals and Airbnbs. Is it a good time? When should I do that? What market do you need to be in? So Mark has the answers for us. So welcome to the show. Yay!
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so excited. Well, first of all, you have to tell us, how in the world did you get into this, and a little bit about your background.
Yeah, for sure. So I do this with my wife. She couldn't be here today, Kirsten, but she is the definitely my better half. And we got into short-term rentals by accident, I think, as a lot of people do. When we got married, we purchased a house together, and my only stipulation was that it had to have a basement apartment. So we're in Canada. It's cold here, and we have basements because
You're in Canada? Wow.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Oh my gosh. Is it still cold in Canada right now?
I am flying out to Tennessee tomorrow, and it's a lot warmer there than here. We're about, well, I don't know, we do Celsius, so we're like 10 degrees or so. So it's rainy. It's, you need a jacket for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
So, but that's Canada. So we have basements because of the frost and everything. So,
Right.
And I'm actually in that basement right now. And yeah, we set it up as a rental, a regular long-term rental. And, we had some good renters, we had some bad renters. And right around that time, Airbnb was sort of, becoming more common. It was about 2013, 2014. So I said, hey, honey, why don't we try Airbnb? And with some reservation, she said, we got to cover the same as we would with long-term rent. And yeah, we did. We killed it. Absolutely. And it was a pokey little apartment, a 1-bedroom, not real nice. We've, upgraded as the years have gone on. But in those days, you just needed to have a place and people would come. Even
Right.
where we are, we're not in a major tourist area, but we're kind of in between two. So that was our start. We did that for many years. And then we eventually bought a second house, turned it into a duplex, did short-term rentals in those. And we're self-employed. So we have property management business. I had a business before that as well. And in Canada, it's very hard to get financing. Banks are pretty conservative. So we
Yeah.
were kind of getting to the end of where, like, the amount of properties that we could buy with the income that we showed, right? If you're self-employed, you
Yep.
can
Oh
get
yeah.
tax
They're
deductions.
so funny that, again, as a self-employed entrepreneur, it's like the banks penalize you. I mean, I literally, even when I remember going in to get a Mercedes, it was one of my first Mercedes, and the finance guy, he literally took his index finger out and shook it at me and said, you are a single woman and you own too much real estate. And I was like,
Oh,
okay,
boy.
none of those things you should be criticizing me about being a single woman, having this much real estate. None of that should be a bad thing. I had too many rental properties and he didn't like it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to a different Mercedes dealership who appreciates me for being me. But banks are pretty rough on those entrepreneurs. So
Yeah.
good for you. So
In Canada, even more so. And, I will say COVID kind of showed us, like, what is the value of a W-2 job or a T4 in Canada?
right.
Is it really more safe than self-employed? A lot of people got laid off, but in any case,
Yeah.
I thought, how can I get a bigger piece of the pie? And we thought, well, why don't we start a property management company and we can manage other people's Airbnbs for them? So at the time, when we launched the company, Kirsten was pregnant, 9 months pregnant. And I think the first sort of longer term showing that we had for a client, she went into labor. So, so she
That's
called
a
the client,
story.
said, listen, can we, oh yeah, like what a time, right? Pandemic, 9 months pregnant, start a business. But we
my
did
gosh.
anyways, and that all worked out. But we realized just before the pandemic that there was, there's short-term rentals, there's long-term rentals, there's also midterm rentals. We started doing more and
Yeah.
more of those, and that's 30 days or longer. And especially in Canada, we don't have traveling nurses like in the States. That's been a category for quite a while in the States. Nurses here, and my wife was a nurse, they just kind of stay put, right? They find a place to
Yep.
work at, and that's where they work. So
Yeah.
anyways, we realized, hey, there's a market for midterm rentals. And we started doing it. We did it for a couple of years. It served us very well through the pandemic when short-term rentals kind of died in our area. And I had another idea. I said, honey, let's write a book about this. And so we did.
And I love it. It's You, Me, and Airbnb. Whoa, that's a great name.
Yeah, thank you.
So tell us a little bit about the book. So You, Me, and Airbnb. I mean, so does it cover management?
Yeah, so it is. I mean, the title says one thing, but the book actually does a little bit more. So our goal and what we love to do is sort of mentor younger folks getting into real estate, especially couples like us with children. There's certain lifestyle choices, right? My wife retired from nursing so that we could spend more time with our children, and also we're self-employed. I also get to spend more time at home with the kids. And real estate is a great avenue for folks who are looking to go down that route. So that was sort of our market when we wrote the book. So we cover real estate, like why get into real estate. We just sort of set the groundwork, and then we talk about long-term rentals to set the path for short-term, and then midterm rentals. And we also get into the economic system that we have and why having hard assets like real estate are a really good idea. But we also talk about midterm rentals. So we talk, a little bit about management, and we didn't get too much into the mechanics of midterm rentals because this is now a couple of years ago that we had the idea and started writing, and we just wanted to introduce the concept to people. And I think people have it now, and we've written an additional chapter which people can go to our website and get, and that gets into some of the real nuts and bolts of managing a midterm rental and marketing and so forth.
And it's so interesting that you say that in the midterm, because I've been in the Washington, D.C. area since 1997. I was licensed as a real estate agent, but my goal was never just to be and I say that just with my little air quotes, a real estate agent. I always wanted to be a real estate investor. And so within like the first year, I already started buying houses and flipping them. And I started with little condos, and then I discovered the short-term rentals. And in Washington, D.C., there are lots of people that would come, and sometimes they would come for a month. Some would come for a weekend. And so I found all these different variations. But then particularly so I'm licensed in Virginia, DC, and Maryland. And then I got my license in Florida. And I started finding Florida has so many different regulations, city by city and county by county, on what you call the midterm. So some of them, it has to be a week minimum. You can't do anything daily because you compete against the hotels. And of course, the hotel lobby is pretty strong in Florida. And then there are some that it has to be a minimum of a month. And then there's some that it has to be a minimum of 3 months. And then there's some that it has to be a minimum of 6 months. And I was like, wait a minute, how many different categories are there? And that's part of the reason I was so excited about having you guys on to talk about it. And your book is just because I want to introduce the idea that it doesn't mean that you have to be a hotel owner or a hotel manager. And sometimes when people think of short-term rentals, they only think of that. And all they think about are towels and complaining tourists and such. And it's different. Like you talked about the traveling nurses or traveling doctors, or somebody who's come in Washington, D.C. We ended up with a lot of people who come for the summer for 3 months because they were doing an internship, and it could be on Capitol Hill or with the Supreme Court or all over the place, or the Smithsonian's. So it's a wide open there. And I think it's a beautiful thing that you've written the book on here. So I'm excited. What do you guys think the future is? I mean, obviously things shifted during COVID. What do you think the future is for short-term rentals?
Yeah, so that's interesting. We've been talking with a lot of people about this lately. And, what we see for short-term rentals is a lot more regulation. So in Canada, where we are, especially in the province that we're in, pretty well every jurisdiction now has some kind of rules around short-term rentals, and they're fairly restrictive. A lot of them are primary residence only. We have a tremendous housing shortage, and this is sort of low-hanging fruit for politicians to say, look, we've done something. We've regulated short-term rentals, right?
Right.
and it's ridiculous because they haven't gotten to the root of the problem. But
Right.
the point is more regulation. And we kind of see that in the States as well. We're looking at investing in the States. And,
Yeah.
if you're in an area that doesn't have regulation, you should count on there being some at some point. And even if it's
I
a
agree.
tourist area, so it could be, restricted to principal residents only. It could be a lottery system. A lot of places have that where they know they need it for
Right.
tourism, but they also want to balance out housing needs. So there would be a cap on the number of short-term rentals. And that's,
Mhm.
popular in many places. So where we see short-term rentals going are more like boutique hotels. And I know you said people don't want to do that, but a lot of short-term rental operators are looking at like a little 10-unit place. They can
Right.
operate as a
Yeah.
boutique hotel, get a hotel license, and they have the experience from short-term rentals. So there's that. There's specialty. Airbnb is huge in the category, and they push a lot of the specialty places. So like tree houses and
Right.
you know,
Mobile
big
homes
barrels.
and
Yeah, mobile
boats.
homes.
Boats.
Yeah, I know, I know. So we have Dutch background, my wife and I, and especially in Holland, I think last time we went, we stayed in a boat for a night.
There you
And
go.
it's more, houseboat living is more popular there because they have so much water. But yeah, there's all kinds of things. So if you can have something unique, then that's great. But urban short-term rentals are becoming increasingly tough
Yep.
to do. So yeah, we see the specialization and then moving in towards midterm rentals as well as people understand that this is a thing, it's available. They're becoming more popular as well.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for that because I think so often when people start, especially brand new investors, when they get into looking at short term rentals, they get so excited about it, but they don't realize one of the things they really need to look at is what are the current regulations, but also you need to take a little bit of the political temperature of what
Hmm.
is the upcoming, what is the talk? Are they looking at limiting it? Are you going to be grandfathered in or are they looking at restricting it so that again, the profit margin that you have, if it's a short term versus if it's a midterm versus if it has to be a long term, these are very different numbers. And you need to know those regulations, but also look to the future so that you can be prepared and you can either, make a decision on whether you're going to keep that property or sell it depending on what's happening. Because again, and getting involved, I'm going to say that's my last little plug on make sure you get involved in your community so that we're actually having people who are elected who are representing what's best for a community. As you just alluded to earlier, it doesn't, sometimes they're the low hanging fruit is what they look at, yet they're not getting to the core of what the real problem is. So that was my other piece of advice.
Yeah, and like you say, get involved and don't wait until there's talk on the horizon or regulations upcoming because we kind of had that in our city, and I was guilty of that too. We didn't do a lot of lobbying or be involved with the local political scene, and by the time they're thinking about doing it, it's almost too late. So yeah,
Yep.
and there's many places that have lobbies, and I think there's rentresponsibly.com is another place that encourages
Mm,
people to start short-term rental alliances in their area for this reason, and
nice.
also just to connect with other hosts and to be responsible short-term rental operators. Because at the end of the day, we're in this to make money, but we also want to contribute to the communities that we're involved in.
Yeah, I agree. And the reason I did it when I first did it was just so that I could meet people from all over the world and give them a wonderful experience when they came. And in DC, of course, we end up with so many international people. And I used to have people who always brought me gifts. Anyway, I'm digressing. I am so excited that we got to have you. And I think I encourage anybody to look into this and definitely look for your book. So, Mark, please, will you share with people about your website, your book, and your social media? How can they find out more?
Yeah, for sure. So the book is available on Amazon.com. So that's probably the most, I was going to say .ca, but .com for most of your listeners. I got a copy of it here. So You, Me, and Airbnb, the savvy couple's guide to turning midterm rentals into big time profits. Amazon's probably the easiest spot to get it. Available in major bookstores, mostly online as well. And if you want more information, I'd say the best spot to go is probably Mark and Kirsten .ca. So Mark, Mark, and Kirsten, Kirsten, STEN.ca, and shoot us an email and we'll respond to that.
Perfect. And as you know, I'm going to ask you to lift your voice and say yay with me as we go off the air. Is that okay?
Okay, that's super.
All right. Yay! 3, 2, 1.
Yay!
Hi, I'm Jack Canfield. You may know me as the co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. And if you want more help in getting from where you are to where